You might have heard of all the software. A kind of third-party one is called Silverfast, which is a kind of the Concord of scanning software that doesn't sort of relate to any one particular piece of hardware, but will deal with a lot of hardware in terms of scanning. Epson scanning software is going to have its own idiosyncrasies, it's going to have its own way of doing things, but essentially the way that it does things, those things are constant with any kind of scanner that you're going to use. So there are certain phrases like resolution, bit depth, scale that will be common to all types of scanner, and that's kind of what we'll have a look at and how the Epson scanner kind of deals with those. So at the top, it's really quite easy. We get to select the kind of document and the kind of way that we want to scan it in and how we set it up. So prints in kind of scanning language is always referred to as reflective. And if you click on, if you want to get the scanner dialog box back up, because you can have a play then as we're talking, and it'll remind me what the settings say. Okay. If you get any error messages, get rid of them. Yeah, remind me later, skip it, whatever, that's fine. So if you have a look at document type, it's probably set to reflective because we're scanned in a print. So there should also be settings in there that says film and film with holder. So these scanners will also scan in film material, which we'll have a look at in a bit. What does it say as document source? I can't quite remember what's in there. Well, nothing really, so we don't have to worry about that. And the auto exposure type, well, we're always probably going to be dealing with photographic material generally, so that can be left on photo. Okay, right. The next bit, as it says destination, is all the settings of how we want our scan to turn out, and the basic kind of characteristics or functions, however you want to describe it, as how those scans will appear. The image type, you'll notice that there's basically the image type you're selecting either colour or black and white with that particular menu. But there are a lot more settings in there. You'll see phrases like 24-bit, 48-bit, 8-bit grayscale, 16-bit grayscale. We'll refer to the bit depth a little bit later when we've done a little bit more scanning, because out of all the things that we'll talk about today, the bit depth is probably the most technical and maybe slightly the least relevant that we'll need to cover. But it's either black and white or colour within that setting. So what should we use? Should we use black and white or colour? Well, I would say colour. I don't know if Kelly would agree with me, and why we should scan even images that appear to be black and white, why we should scan them in colour.
Does anyone have an answer?
Yeah, you get a larger file and it's so too big.
Yes, that's certainly true. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, because not everything that's monochrome is black and white.
Yeah, exactly right. So things might be sepia tone, things might be aged, things might have changed over time, and you as kind of photo historians, photo conservators, which I'm not, will probably actually need to reflect accurately the state of an object when you scan it. So always scan in colour, and it is true, when you scan in colour you do actually capture more information about the object that you're scanning, which is what you said. So although in normal practice, maybe with new photographic material, you would choose between black and white colour. Colour takes up more space to store, so there are reasons not to use it for the sake of using it, but I think in your practice, always colour. And then the most important setting underneath that is the resolution. So this is where we will kind of define the ultimate quality of what you're scanning in. We'll have a look at resolution a little bit later, because there's a section that I call kind of the anatomy of a digital file, which will go through these settings. But as a rule of thumb, you're going to want to scan things in at 300 dpi or 72 dpi, depending on your usage maybe. Some output devices use kind of resolutions that are a bit different from that. But that then kind of leaves us to a little bit of a choice as to what you're going to use your images for. If you're going to put them on the web and talk about your images, then the 300 dpi is too much information and your web pages won't load. So anything that is screen-based really needs to be at a resolution of 72 dpi. Yet you don't want to be scanning in things twice because that's just going to take up time. So generally, as a working rule, you would scan most things in at 300 dpi or higher if you've got a specific need. And then in terms of processing your files after scanning, you would change resolutions and save different copies at lower resolutions for web purposes or for screen purposes or for presentation purposes. You don't want to be wasting your time by scanning in things twice, 3 times. And this is where a lot of people kind of get a little bit unconfident of my kind of observations with the undergraduates, is that they're fully aware that if they get that setting wrong, then they're going to have to do their scans again. But they kind of, the information sort of goes in one ear and out the next, and if it's 6 months between learning how to use a scanner and scanning something in, they get very unconfident in using this equipment. So rule of thumb, 300 dpi or higher, and you won't go far wrong. You might create yourself a little bit more work in the future by having to change the resolution down for various things, but it's a good kind of rule. Now, underneath that, which you should see a little tab that says target size with an arrow next to it. It's probably not expanded actually. So if you have a look here, where my target size is, it's actually, I've clicked on the arrow and made it bigger, so there's a lot more settings revealed by target size. So if you find the word target size and click on it, you should see a lot more settings. So the resolution defines quality, and so does the scale. So do you kind of all understand what I might mean by the scale? I mean, you've all got a fairly standard 10:8 size image there that we've scanned in. But if you were scanning in something really small, you still probably want it 300 dpi, but the fact that it's so small, you might want to increase its final physical size as an output, and that's where the scaling comes in. So quality isn't set just by resolution, it's set by resolution and the physical size of your scanner. Okay? Does that all make sense so far?